There is a terrifying moment when your entire reality shatters inside a sterile room without warning. When my supervisor slid that formal termination paper across her laminate desk, my ears began ringing so loudly that my chest felt hollow. A 60% salary reduction was staring back at me in cold, dark font. I did not shed a single tear in front of her. I simply nodded like a well-trained machine and requested 24 hours to review their proposal. The real breakdown happened the second I locked myself inside my vehicle on the third level of the parking structure. Heavy sobs shook my shoulders until the windshield fogged completely over while mascara ruined my face. I sat in that dark space for nearly an hour wondering how 9 years of loyalty meant nothing. My name is Samantha Vance, and I am a 36-year-old single mother to a wonderful 10-year-old boy named Toby. Before that horrific meeting, I held the position of Senior Vice President of Accounts at Vanguard Systems. Talking about this time still brings a heavy weight to my chest even years later. I started with the enterprise when we were just 15 individuals operating out of a small converted brick warehouse. Back then everyone believed we were building something truly special while working endless hours together. I gave up weekends, missed family events, and sacrificed my personal health to build our client relationships. My dedication paid off because within 4 years I was personally managing our largest strategic accounts that generated most of our annual revenue. When the father of my son packed his bags and left us for a younger fitness instructor, those client relationships became my ultimate safety net. They provided the income necessary to cover our monthly mortgage and the essential asthma medications for my child. By my 6th year I had a dedicated team of 8 professionals and solid executive compensation. Everything changed when a massive conglomerate named Titan Corporation acquired our startup. Our original founder stood on the cafeteria stage telling everyone that this merger would accelerate our expansion. I watched him smile while avoiding eye contact with the core staff who had built the firm. He walked away with millions while the rest of us saw our hard-earned equity converted into practically worthless stock options tied to long vesting periods. Within months, the corporate restructuring began eliminating talent. First they eliminated entry-level roles and then moved on to middle managers while issuing polished mass emails about corporate synergy. My core group was slashed from 8 employees down to just 2, yet our workload expanded exponentially. I was putting in 70 hours every week and answering urgent client messages at 3 in the morning. My little boy began asking why I was always staring at my laptop screen instead of watching his evening soccer matches. I convinced myself that I was untouchable because I controlled the accounts generating our steady profits. That delusion shattered when Human Resources scheduled a quick status meeting with a corporate representative named Donald Sterling. Donald sat there wearing an expensive watch and offered a cold smile before explaining that my compensation needed alignment with market conditions. They were cutting my annual pay from $130,000 down to $52,000 effective immediately. They claimed my role was shifting toward regional support while centralizing client management at corporate headquarters. In plain language, they wanted to steal my clients, remove my title, and slash my income while forcing me to handle the heavy workload during the transition. They knew I was raising a child alone and relying on medical insurance. They assumed I was too terrified and financially trapped to walk away from their ridiculous offer. I maintained my composure, asked for 24 hours to consider the changes, and walked calmly to my vehicle. As I sat there trembling from anger and anxiety, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from Rachel Miller, a former colleague who had resigned months earlier. She asked if I had seen her urgent online messages regarding an executive opportunity at Apex Innovations, the primary competitor of Titan Corporation. She mentioned that her chief executive was eager to hire me. Looking at the corporate building in my rearview mirror, I realized I owed them no loyalty after how they treated me. I told Rachel that I was ready to talk immediately. Within 20 minutes, the chief executive officer of Apex, Harrison Brooks, called me directly and scheduled a private breakfast meeting at a quiet diner for 7:30 the following morning. I spent that evening reviewing my original employment contract and confirmed there was no non-compete clause present. My original contract had been drafted back when the enterprise was small and trusting, and corporate leadership had never updated it for legacy employees. Before going to sleep, I pulled up my personal relationship notes containing years of strategic client insights and key operational contacts. These were not proprietary company files, but rather personal network details I had cultivated over nearly a decade. I resolved to find out what my industry expertise was truly worth on the open market. The next morning, I met Harrison Brooks at the quiet diner away from both corporate headquarters. He did not waste time with corporate buzzwords and admitted that his company had tried to recruit me multiple times over the past few years. He placed a formal folder on the table containing an offer for $165,000 base salary, substantial performance bonuses, full medical coverage for my family, and equity options. I was stunned by the massive figure. Harrison explained that my client retention rate of 94% made me an invaluable strategic asset that Titan Corporation was foolish to overlook. Rachel added that corporate leadership was secretly planning to outsource all client support overseas within 8 months, using pay cuts to force employees out without paying severance. They were not just cutting my salary, they were planning to eliminate my position entirely once I finished training a lower-cost replacement. 3 hours later, I walked back into Titan Corporation holding a signed contract from Apex inside my briefcase. Donald Sterling was waiting impatiently in the main conference room alongside Human Resources. When I sat down and began asking specific questions about account handovers for our major clients, Donald dismissed my concerns as company business. That was when I looked him dead in the eye and informed him that I was resigning effective immediately. Donald lost his temper and insisted that policy required 2 weeks of notice from senior staff. I reminded him that my original agreement linked notice periods directly to severance allowances, and since they offered no severance, no notice was required. Furthermore, a specific clause waived all transition duties if compensation was reduced by more than 15%. His smug expression vanished completely when I mentioned that I was joining Apex Innovations the following Monday. I gathered my personal belongings into a single cardboard box while security escorted me out of the building. Once inside my vehicle, I made 3 pivotal telephone calls. First, I alerted Harrison that my departure was complete. Second, I called our original founder who was horrified to hear about the massive pay cuts and promised to contact corporate leadership personally. Third, I reached out to Victoria Stone, the chief technology officer at our largest client account. When Victoria learned that I had been pushed out and that her account was being reassigned, she was furious about the lack of communication. She immediately requested my new contact details at Apex. Over the next 6 months, 5 of my former major accounts voluntarily transferred their business over to my new firm. They made the switch not because I solicited them, but because they trusted the professional relationship we had built over nearly 10 years. Corporate leadership ultimately abandoned their overseas outsourcing plans and removed Donald Sterling from his position after realizing the severe financial damage caused by their greed. It has been 3 years since that fateful day, and I now serve as Executive Vice President of Client Operations at Apex. I earn an incredible income, but more importantly, I am home every night to cook dinner and attend every single soccer game with my son.